Well, hi, I'm here with Zac Goodall, the Head of Sustainability at Riverford Organic Farmers, who I'm delighted to say have been sponsoring the latest talk that we've just had, Wasteland and Sea, here at Planted at King's Cross this year. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Zac. Thanks so much for your time. Could I start off just by asking you, what was it about Planted that Riverford were interested in being part of, and why you guys are here today?
Well, first off, thanks for having us here. It's such a great location. It's great to hear all the other talks that have been going on. We really liked it because the whole nature-focused design element was really akin to what we do. So everything that we think about is from farm to fork is about nature, how we treat the environment, people as well, but obviously right now we're talking about natural systems and processes. So yeah, that really drew us to what you guys are trying to do here.
And in terms of Riverford and what you guys do, I mean, can you say a little bit about the business? What's the business model? And again, in terms of, we'll talk about the product in a little bit and the design side of things. But what makes Riverford so unique?
Well, for a start, we're an employee-owned business. We're also a large business with over 1,000 co-owners in the business, and we operate on the John Lewis model style setup. So we have all the shares of the business, bar about 25%, which are held with our founder. All the rest of the shares are put into trust, and they are held equally for all co-owners in the business. So everyone that joins becomes part of that. In terms of the business structure, we have two main pack houses, one down in South Devon, one in Peterborough, called Zac Goodall Farm. Down in Devon, it's called Wash Farm. And we centralise a lot of our production, so we have our own farms that produce about 10% by weight of the food that we sell. We also have a lot of other farmers who, some have been working with the business for about 20 years or more. And we really do draw quite a lot of produce, particularly from Devon. So the core of our boxes, things like carrots, potatoes, leeks, brassicas. And then we also have some produce coming out of Spain and a little further afield.
And in terms of the actual quality of the veg that you guys sell, I mean, why should people choose organic vegetables over non-organic? What's the difference in simple terms?
In simplest terms, you're going to get a higher environmental value of product with organic. Even though there are pitfalls with organic, generally you'll get a product that has been farmed more sensitively in terms of how it treats nature. It'll be more sensitive and less damaging to waterways in many cases. And also, the kind of people often that are involved with organic, particularly smaller farms, they're going to be going further than the organic certification requires them to. They're going to be putting more trees on their farms. They're going to be stewarding the waterways and trying to improve soil health in ways that go beyond the organic certification. Conventional farming, but it's also important to say that organic is certified, so there is a specific set of practices. You're not allowed to use artificial fertilisers, you have to use minimal to no pesticides, you're not allowed to use GMO organisms, so genetically modified. It really is a stringent set of standards, and that is being compared to conventional agriculture, so agriculture that doesn't have to use, is allowed to use pesticides, can use artificial fertilisers like ammonium nitrate, and just isn't subject to the same set of rules that organic is. So it won't be allowing for nature-friendly farming all the time. Not to say that some conventional doesn't. There's a lot of conventional farmers that are, just because they're not organic certified, it doesn't mean they're not going going the extra mile in some areas on farm.
So one of the things we've been talking about here at Planted today and for the last couple of days has been packaging and waste, and something that's probably not been historically something we've paid much attention to, but certainly has been for Riverford. And from the design side of the products that you use, I mean, again, can you talk a little bit about the packaging and the benefits of the packaging that you guys use, and the way that you send your goods out to your customers?
So we work on something we're calling our packaging promise, which is essentially an adaptation of the waste hierarchy. So we're making sure that at the top of the chain we remove as much packaging as possible. So this is through things like questioning, do we need packaging on that product? If it's a hardy product, something like corn on the cob, it's got its own natural packaging, or something that's tough and can take getting from the farm through our packing systems into the customer, like a Swede, for example, then we don't need to put that in packaging. We can remove that entirely. But then you go down a level and you get to reduce. So we want to make sure we design our systems to reduce packaging as much as possible. So you get certain sizes of bags, but if we know we have a whole cohort of products that are actually going to be leaving lots of space in a bag, then we will make sure we try and redesign to bring the size of that down. And we're doing that through the use of automation and machines at the moment. But in the past, it's been as simple as ordering a type of packaging that will fit the product better. Then we get to recycle. We want to make sure that we're providing products that can be at least widely recyclable, or if that's not possible, then we need to make sure that we can take that back and deal with that effectively, whether that's our home compostable, so that will then get composted at one of the farms that we work with. And then we want to make sure that if we can't do any of those things, and we need to make sure a product is looked after properly to avoid food waste, so a great example of this is leafy products, then we would use something like home compostable plastics. And that's where we came to the conclusion on removing plastic in favour of home compostable plastics, because the way our supply chain is set up, even if we do all of those things with a delicate leafy product like chopped lettuce or herbs, we can't put that in something like paper or cardboard. We have to go to something that has that moisture retention and that quality preservation, and that's home compostable plastics. So we're really thinking about how we design every product that goes out to customers with that hierarchy in mind, and also how they're going to use it. So at the end of its life, how are we going to make sure that that customer can get that packaging into the waste stream that's most appropriate? Because you can have the best packaging in the world. Plastic's amazing packaging. If it actually got recycled and didn't leak out of the system, we could use loads of it and it would be fine, because we would be recycling lots of it, particularly ones like PET and HDPE, where we can get good recycling rates. But we know it's an imperfect system, it's a leaky system, so we have to work around that. And that means getting products to people in a way that means they can put it in the correct waste stream. So we have to think about that in the design of the system as well. A great example is with our home compostable packaging, you can return it to us if you can't put it on your home compost heap. So we avoid it leaking out of the system in an unintentional way, like getting into people's general waste or something like that.
And so, I mean, presumably, and I know a lot of what you've done has been driven by you guys, but also inevitably a business responds to what the customer wants. And so you guys have been listening to your customers and adapting and changing the business accordingly.
Yeah, and again, the packaging side of things is a great response. So we were obviously aware of the plastics issue and had a will to start reducing and changing to alternative materials. But what really tipped it was that, the Blue Planet effect, and customers were ringing us up and giving us their views on, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to tackle the plastics crisis? And that really just combined with our will to be looking at that anyway and pushed us to start looking at proper solutions.
And lastly, Zac, if I could say, so, I mean, you're here today representative of Riverford as the head of sustainability. I mean, what next? I mean, how are you going to keep pushing the message and making sure that more and more customers engage with what you guys are doing and shift away from some of the less sustainable farming practices and big supermarket chains which dominate our food supply system.
So we're really focusing on something we're calling farming for the future. So it's a whole program of assessment and improvement on farm. So looking at a whole farm approach. So not just how are you doing on your carbon emissions or what's your soil health like. We're looking at 6 key impact areas. So we're looking at biodiversity, nature, water quality, soil health, carbon emissions and sequestration, animal welfare and social metrics. And we're combining these in a way that means we can build improvement plans and schemes of work to start really hitting home on some of these issues. So things like how do we keep more soil on our fields, using things like cover crops and different machinery in the way that we cultivate the land, looking to agroforestry systems to plant more trees and combine these with crops so that we have highly productive systems that can sequester carbon, hold soil on slopes, improve infiltration to reduce flooding, and ultimately build a better agricultural system. And in the same way, we're going to be looking forward at things like how do we improve water quality in the waterways around our farms, and also how do we improve how people interact with this? How do we create spaces that are also producing food and havens for nature that people can visit? So we're really looking at how we combine all these ways of working a farm so it's not just a place to produce food.
Amazing. Well, Zac, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. I'm incredibly proud to have Riverford associated with Planted, and it really is a great association, and I hope the start of something that we can work on together for a long time in the future.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been great.
Pleasure.